One of the things we've heard about again and again in the last hour on the Security Council at the United Nations is the way in which the bodies of those on MH17 have been left in fields and denied the dignity of a decent burial. That and the fact that the very crash scene itself has been compromised. Armed rebels freely roaming around the site as wreckage appears to have been poorly taped off, access by investigators hindered, obstructed by rebels, and the bodies and the luggage, according to some, have been looted in what's effectively a forensic crime scene that has been contaminated. Robert Jensen is the chief exec of Kenyan, a firm specialising in disaster recovery and crash investigations, and knows full well the risks of holding an investigation in the middle of a conflict zone. He joins me now from London. Bob, you've never seen anything quite like this.
No, it's the worst case scenario that's been made unbelievably worse. It's intolerable and it's inexcusable for the families.
So now the remains, and we're not being distasteful as we discuss this, now the remains are on this train, which will eventually end up at a place where they can be flown to Amsterdam. How difficult will it be for identification?
Well, it's a plane crash. It was difficult to begin with. It's going to be that much harder now because they haven't been preserved and they haven't been treated with the respect or dignity. So the forensics team are interviewing families, collecting the information to build a profile. The same thing has to happen with each of the deceased. And then those two profiles have to be matched. It's going to be harder because there's no context from the recovery. It wasn't documented. It wasn't done properly. So a job that was difficult and was going to take time is now going to take that much more time. It's achievable. The Dutch team is a great team. We've worked with them in many different accidents, the same with the Australians and the other teams that are going to be there. They can do it. They're going to need time, and they need realistic expectations set by the families, and they need the support. But most importantly, they need access, and they need information.
Right, now, that is the two sides of it. I mean, on the one side, it is the recovery of the remains so that they can be returned to their countries, as the Dutch foreign minister said, bring our people home. But then you have the investigation, which also seems likely to come from the Netherlands, who are going to lead on this. Have we had many examples of investigations put together with one country where many others obviously usually take part, but actually becomes an international coalition?
Absolutely. A lot of aviation accidents are international disasters. In fact, almost all of them are. They involve manufacturers, representatives from governments who've had citizens on board the aircraft, representatives of the country that certified the aircraft. Sometimes the country may not have the capability.
Let me just, but what I'm really sort of implying in that, I understand that others get involved, but a situation where ultimately who's running the investigation and it becomes an international investigation, not by a single country.
Well, I guess you could look at MH370. You can probably look at Korean Air 007. And I would stretch to think of some others, perhaps Egypt Air 990, but that one passed between the Egyptians and the Americans several times. So is there precedent? Not in this prime example, but there are other examples that are similar and related.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. Apologies, we've kept it a bit shorter than, but as you can understand, it's been a very busy day at the United Nations. And we are going to stay with the United Nations.